Have you ever wondered what goes on in the lives of law enforcement officers? Ask yourself, even if we are bashing them with all these words, looking at all the negative things, have you ever been thorough in looking at how you can be able to walk in their shoes?
You can imagine you going out for a mission. You have a small daughter and a wife, and you're not sure whether you'll be coming back or not.
Empathy, being able to walk in their shoes, being away from their families. All this in this book, The High Calling.
How the main character, Osiebo, began his journey, especially after the recruitment and of course being recruited as a cadet, as a graduate, but then the kind of struggles he had to go through to acquire his master's degrees.
Indeed, being a law enforcement operative is a high calling.
Wherever they are at the border or deep in the forests of our country, just ensure that you're enjoying your KFC back in Nairobi.
The author of this book, Dr. Fidel Agai, is a sociologist specializing in the sociology of law. He is an expert in legal pluralism, ontological security, and related theories. All this on this week's episode. This is a reason for you to subscribe and hit the like button. And as usual, put a comment so that you can be able to digest. And above all, there's a link below describing how you can be able to get this book. As always, keep it Crimeshield. This episode has been recorded at Wojo Shared Office Space, where you come work, play, live, network. Where kuja ujione mwenyewe. It's located at Upper Hill, Mercure, 10th and 9th floor. Come check it out for yourself. Today I want to start by reading you a quote from a very amazing book that I read from a very good friend of mine, Daktari mwenyewe. I'll tell you more about it, but just listen to this quote. The sea can't sink a ship unless it gets inside. Tafakari ya babu, only on the Crimeshield podcast. And today we have an amazing guest who brings, a lot of light into how we are able to deal with matters to do with burnout, matters to do with stress. He is a doctor. He has, I don't know, nitasoma tu bio yake because now these people do not need any introduction. Daktari, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
I am here.
Sawa.
Yeah.
I've read this book, The High Calling, and ukiona hata maneno inaisha, it's because it really helped me also to reflect on myself and the things that we always go about on a daily life. Kuna vitu zingine zenye huwa tunaangalia on a day to day, probably as professionals, and my background in security, things that really are showcased in this amazing book, The High Calling. And, the quote that I read reflects on what you sieve in your life and what you allow, not to get into your life, by judging yourself to choose what you consume. Is it positive or negative? So many people tend to take in a lot of negativity. There's a lot of stresses out there. There's a lot of, economical challenges, psychological challenges, physical challenges. But now you tell us that the sea cannot sink the ship unless it's inside. Daktari, what motivated you to go into this book?
It's been a long-standing idea that I had because I'm one person who I love reading, I love writing, and I do write in a way that I'm able to not only entertain but also to educate and inform my readers, but also in a comical way, in an interesting way.
Yeah.
And many who've interacted with my book say it's more of a movie. Or kind of a movie.
It's a movie, actually.
But a lot of law enforcement agents or officers are doing their jobs some are doing in very, very difficult circumstances and challenges, which at some point in my life I was I was able to also go through a number of times, and I said I was just putting them down in my journal, hoping that one day I'll be able to share with people out there. So then they realize how challenging law enforcement environment can be, especially for those in need.
Yeah.
So then you can come into their the shoes of law enforcement officers, and share with them as you read this book. Are you able to be like an officer for a moment?
Yeah.
Under those very different circumstances. It's a tapestry woven. It's like a story of a tapestry that is woven of both bad and good experiences, just like in life. But just to quickly mention that quote you made, there's this, of course, famous philosophers in Greek. This Greek, if you, when I watch my movie, mnaona jina zao pale, sio kina Socrates, and you know, like in Aristotle. I'm a fan of those kind of reads, and that's some of the things that motivated me. And when basically they talked of you should be indifferent. A time comes when you need to be indifferent to external influences.
Yeah.
That is, you don't let all negativity in particular get into you, because once it gets into you, you become a little bit irrational, and you're not able to perceive the environment as clear as it is.
Yeah.
And as we'll be going on with the discussion, we'll come to see how when you let that negativity or a lot of challenges you all go through get into you, it has some ramifications and issues along the way that eventually end up messing our mental health.
I think I want to jump into, I've read the book and Justice Under the Acacia Tree. And I've seen that there's so much we can be able to learn from how, African leadership is and how Africans, in the African way, resolve their own issues. In your own words, probably, without preempting, would you say that we've really aped into what the Western people do in modern day policing and, how we conduct to resolve issues? Because Justice in the Acacia Tree really opened my mind. Nikajiuliza, kumbe wale wazee wa kijiji na machief ni watu wa heshima sana, na siku hizi hata wanadharauliwa, and yet wakati kuna issue unapata hao ndio wanakuwa watu wa kwanza kuitwa.
Yeah, you see, my Kiswahili teacher aliniambia some quote mahali iko wazee hapaharibiki jambo.
Hapaharibiki jambo.
But you see, during when I was conceptualizing my studies, especially at the PhD level, I came to the realization that the African traditional mechanisms, not just African traditional mechanisms alone, but there are certain mechanisms which are traditional in nature that will work and succeed, where Western style of criminal justice systems or mechanisms could not succeed. And can give a few examples outside our jurisdiction, like able to come across the Tibets in China. So I know you read in the book, and how they solve their issues. In fact, to the extent that the Chinese government do not necessarily interfere with a lot of their dispute mechanisms, because theirs work. They believe so much in their traditional arbitration methods, which is based on their religion. And the Buddhists there are so powerful in decision making. I saw an example in Macedonia, when I was interacting with the books, and it's all over the world. But in Africa, it's more conspicuous. And in fact, when the British came around, they realized that they could not effectively deal with us. So they resorted to what we call the indirect rule. Where they'll be able to use the resources, that is the managerial or administrative resources they got there, the village elders. And the village elders then would will recruit a few wanawaita bullies, village bullies.
thugs.
Wale watu wafupi kama sisi singetoboa,
Wale watu wazito.
wale wazito, those kind of people. And that metamorphosis over time to become the tribal police, they were when put into so that they could enforce together with the village chiefs sometimes unpopular policies of the colonial government.
Yeah.
That over time is what we have now, and it shows how tenacious or how important traditional mechanisms are.
Yeah.
And the book, you'll see how those who, I won't preempt, but those who read more about its mechanisms and how they are able to resolve very complex conflicts and people can say, especially the examples I gave there.
Yeah.
It's a cultural practice which has been made illegal, but still, it was an important social activity to those communities. But over time, it has transformed into organized crime, and so it's no longer a helpful cultural practice.
Yeah.
But you see, these are complex issues which can only be resolved through traditional mechanisms, collaborating with the formal mechanisms.
Yeah.
And that has been talked more into detail in this other book, The Social Control.
Yeah.
But in the high calling, I put it in form of a story, so it can explicitly show the influence and the power of the traditional African mechanisms, which we should not let go, especially, or let it be consumed. But then as I finish the question, sorry, to understand the context, as I imagine, for example, in the medical world, I just come from nowhere and then I donate my liver. To, there are a lot of tests which need to be done, so it shows, is it
matching in the blood
group, matching stuff. It's the same thing. So some people could have just taken some policies or some mechanisms or ways of dealing with things from the West, and they try to transplant it into our context.
Like copy and paste.
It's like copy and paste kwa comp. So you can't just transplant ideas and come with them. They just have to work. So you have to be so sensitive to the context and the environment where this thing is being transplanted in. That's why a lot of strategies perhaps have not been very effective because they're not. They've masked off the traditional mechanisms, but they're supposed to collaborate, especially in those remote, rural, urban environments.
Okay. Yeah. When we're talking about law enforcement, it really, brought me to the attention because personally I served in the Kenya Defense Forces, and it really reflected on myself in terms of the kind of pressure that is in there, the high calling. Because you look at the nature of training, the imprinting of discipline and, clinical in execution and all that, to an extent whereby to the public, people in law enforcement and in the military wanaonekana kama machine. And they're only seen when something goes wrong. But nobody wants to, care about what goes on in the background. That has been seen in different scenarios, including when there were demos in our country. And, anytime there's any stalemate, we expect that the police are the first people who are there, or the army are there. Any law enforcement agency is there. This is inspired by what I read in the book where you're talking about the pressure that people have in terms of, burnout and stress. Probably you can elaborate just a little bit and say how much it contributes and how people can change their lenses to view also, empathy, walking in the shoes of law enforcement, officers.
Right. Research all over the world has indicated that law enforcement agents or officers are really, or rather, let me put it in a way that doesn't, I don't preempt. They've been going through a lot of burnout and stress to a critical degree.
Yeah.
And this this has been characterized by, high suicide rates, and so on and so forth. But that's not even the issue. Those are perhaps, I would say, just but a drop in the ocean. The main issue is whereby the stresses and the burnout over a prolonged period of time causes lifestyle diseases.
Wow.
Like you see high blood pressure, and many other lifestyle diseases that are connected to stress, as research and science has shown. And that has been, a study has been done in the US and other parts of the world that shows that actually that is the main cause of mortality among law enforcement agencies, more than just suicides, as people think. But perhaps, and now if you add lifestyle diseases and suicide, then it becomes even more. But that does not mean that other professions don't have their share of stress and burnout. But in the law enforcement profession, you're always under risk. Abi, the line between life and death is as thin as the neck of a calabash.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can imagine you going out for a mission. You have a small daughter and a wife.
Yeah.
And you're not sure whether you'll be coming back or not. You see,
And they are also not sure.
they are also not really sure.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that, if you look at it from an empathic lens, you realize that law enforcement are a little bit different from other professions. And I'm not trying to say that our professions don't have a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But law enforcement has their own issues, like working overtime, and especially in times that everybody else is asleep. You are always the first line of defense.
Yeah.
And like sometimes people don't only look at at certain aspects. For example, the traffic police. I'm not trying to sanitize what they do, but you can imagine all very grisly accident scenes. They're the first people to ensure everyone is perhaps taken to hospital, and the rest.
They're the first responders on
The first responders and the rest. So the post-traumatic stress disorder issues are also they're also grappling with a lot of that, and many other circumstances where perhaps, for example, they are survivors of deadly ambushes, and at some point in the book you see now the environment in a tented camp somewhere looks like somebody may think, oh, is it exaggerated or what? But
that is the real.
But that's the real thing, because this book is heavily inspired by real events, and all things that. So our law enforcement agencies are giving their best, of course, in any environment.
Yeah.
We do have some rotten eggs,
Exactly.
but majority are doing their work in extremely difficult conditions, and they still. They still have to go home to their families, sane enough to be just human. And it reminds me of Chinua Achebe. It's a famous quote. You see, for a market to be complete, there must be a mad person.
Exactly.
And that is, madness doesn't mean literally a mad person. But those rotten eggs I've talked about. So for a market to be complete, sometime they are there. But law enforcement officers, majority are doing their work in extremely difficult conditions. Here, as we're talking in this podcast, there are those who are perhaps sleeping in something called andaki, which mentioned in the book, I see, and trenches,
Yeah.
And these are real things, and they ensure you're secure. Wherever they are at the border or deep in the forests of our country.
Yeah.
Just ensure that you're enjoying your KFC back in Nairobi.
You're placing your order and it arrives.
Your order on Glovo. Imagine there's somebody somewhere in Keunga, in Lamu, somewhere in Boni Forest, somebody at his border point 1 in Mandera.
Yeah.
He also wished to have some KFC, but he has to sacrifice for this country.
Yeah.
And that's the lens that I'll wish that before we look at other negativities on them, take a look at the many, and the majority who are out there.
Yeah.
They feel that perhaps doing what's not right. We know that there are rules of natural justice, and they roll. As much as they roll slowly,
Yeah.
they eventually roll. Yeah.
So when we're looking at, unajua, most of the times people perceive law enforcement officers not to be learned and things like that. Probably you can tell us the role of continuous learning and what it does. Personally, I've witnessed firsthand, and we were just in the SASCON conference, and we saw how, you know, an association like that brings together a lot of people from the security field, both corporate and, you know, if it were not for them to, you know, understand, to learn, and this goes to any other person, even if you're not in law enforcement, but it's like the baseline of everything, the role of continuous learning and networking. And in the book, probably without preempting, in your own opinion, how, you know, can people in law enforcement believe in themselves to take that leap of faith and gradually but consistently be able to study and, you know, network effectively?
Yeah. A journey of 1,000 miles begin with one step. And actually, that's has always been my. I always tell those who wish to hear that, you know, you don't have to think of so many things. Just have that leap of faith, as
Yeah.
you said. And
Yeah.
in the book, it's
Very clear.
It's very, very clear on how the main character, Osiebo, began his journey, especially after the recruitment and, of course, being recruited as a cadet, as a graduate, but then the kind of struggles he had to go through to acquire his master's degrees, you know, somewhere deep in a very remote area where he was serving,
Yeah.
but still you'll find time to go to school, not because he wanted promotion, but because he wanted this knowledge. He was passionate about knowledge, and knowing that learning is never ending. It's a never ending process. We learn every day, and we can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
Even a peasant farmer doesn't look like or someone. You can't judge a book by its cover. There's always something you can learn from each and everyone, even a beggar on the street.
Yeah.
And that continuous learning is a process.
Yeah.
And it begins with the first step towards your goal. And no matter how treacherous it may be, the fruits are always sweet.
Yeah.
Not necessarily by giving somebody, let's say, direct benefits,
Yeah.
but those indirect benefits of expanding your worldview.
Yeah.
You're able to solve issues in a creative way.
Yeah.
You're able to resolve conflicts. And most importantly, it instills in people empathy, the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoe, and then view it from that particular prism. And I believe education is more than just books. It should instill in you, how do you treat others?
Like a wholesome kind
It's
of
a
approach.
a wholesome approach. Like a way you treat your shamba boy, a way you treat someone on the streets that you don't know. That all that is shaped by proper education. And I would use the word proper.
Yeah.
No shortcuts. You know, and so just all that is in the high calling in the form of stories, inspiring. Yeah.
When you're looking at, you know, we talked about the stressors and how, you know, in the book it brings out more clearly. People would say that when, you know, the current state of the nation, utaenda shule, uende campus, alafu utatamak. And the book really brings out the challenges that people face. And that's why I'm encouraging people to buy this book and read it. Personally, I felt touched because sio watu wote wanapatanga nafasi ya kumaliza campus na kuingia kazi. And you can be put in a huge, you know, corner whereby sometimes you end up doing things that, you know, ordinarily you wouldn't have done given the proper environment. So what I got was the importance of us, number one, being persistent, us being able to understand that, whatever you do in terms of sacrificing your money or resources to put in your education is not in vain. Sometimes you just have to wait a little bit longer. So I just want to bring us a little bit back. In the book, Osiepo was able to, go to the school and study, had the degrees, but he was faced with a lot of challenges in terms of acquiring a job. Anaenda mahali apewi, anaenda mahali pengine apewi. What can you tell the people who are buying this book, and actually they will buy, on what they should do in terms of exercising the patience they require in order to secure their job, hata kama wamesomea, that flexibility and all that?
Yes. The book is very clear on how adaptability, that's adapting to circumstances.
Yeah.
Of course, the continuous learning that you've just said, sticking to personal values and principles, avoiding destructive behavior and the rest, are able to push you through storms. I can just sum it up as it's discipline and above all, contentment.
Yeah.
Being contented, first of all, with what God has given you. And I wish to give just a short story of that I saw somewhere in the Bible, of Moses when he was asked, what do you have in your hand? They were in the wilderness.
Yeah.
They were wondering what next. There was no drinking water, no food. I think he was asked a number of times. I think
he didn't understand it at first.
Didn't understand what kind of question is this. What do I have in my hand?
Yeah.
And then I think he looked on what he was carrying, and he realized he was carrying a stick.
Yeah.
Then he was told to strike on the rock, and miraculously, now water came out of the rock. So it's about what you have at a particular moment in time. That is usually the first question. What do you have in a particular that time that you can use, perhaps as a stepping stone, or something that can take you towards a dark forest somewhere. And the issues of unemployment is not new. Something that started even during the medieval times.
Yeah.
If you read books like The Prince, those written by those philosophers I've talked about.
Yeah.
See, these are years even before Jesus was born, and they will still talk of issues of unemployment and so on and so forth. But remember, in the same place, again, this book it's called The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yes, I've read
it. I'm not here to advertise those books, but
it's a good book.
Inform. It shows what is it that you have at the moment, and then look at the opportunities that you can use to try and make a living with what you have at the moment. But being also conscious of your environment. That does not mean that. Let me just give an example. If you go to a teller one day, go to any of these banks and ask a teller what course he or she did in the university.
Mostly itakuwa ni accounting.
I know biochemists, I know
teacher.
I know teachers, I know microbiologists, I know everyone. You see, these are people who took what was available at that time.
Yeah.
Then they moved on with it. And law enforcement is not an option for those who didn't go to school as people think.
Yeah.
There are those who are so passionate. And they've been engineers or doctors who are in the law enforcement agencies. And at a moment when people couldn't, in my book you realize, it was at a time of the recruitment when there were very few graduates who wanted a job at that particular area. Some time back, and you saw Siebo even being thrown out of the line because he was so short.
Yeah. They call it, nowadays they call it SMS. Short man syndrome.
Yes, I'm a eSIM. Smaller than so it was thrown out, but you see it's persistent.
Yeah.
So it's persistence. ensured that he was brought back because there were not so many graduates that were there, and he was lucky.
Yeah.
From there, that catapulted him all the way to the top. And because he couldn't languish back at home just hoping for manna to fall from heaven. You had to use what is in your hand, like Moses was asked. And what was in his hand at that time was his bachelor's.
Yes.
And I used that to get a job. Before I forget, it doesn't mean that you should stop trying. You should try, and try again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just forgot the name of this person. I read somewhere.
Yeah.
He did 990 something applications. Yes, and just at the verge of giving up, that's when I got a job. So, as much as Josebo did, you see, he was persisting.
Yeah.
Doors closed, he tries other one, just like that, without choosing much. And eventually, he got the job, and that created more and more opportunities along the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always say that, people think when you're conducting a SWOT analysis, it's only for businesses.
Yes.
They don't know that you can also conduct a SWOT analysis on yourself.
That's very important.
Just looking at, from time to time, you analyze and see where your strengths, where your weakness, where the opportunities, where the threats. That way, you're able to take account of yourself, being aware of what you have at hand, as you said rightfully, that Moses was asked, ni nini umebeba kwa mkono? Sometimes what we have might look, inferior or little.
Not helpful at that time.
But not helpful at that time.
Yes.
But when you look at what you have and then reflect on those, the time that you did not realize, then, there's so much to learn. So it's also important to conduct SWOT analysis. There's something that I also got in it in terms of intuition, and you brought it earlier, and trusting your gut in terms of, what is right and what is wrong through the dream at some point. And sometimes when we go through, and it's like the sixth sense, kwa jeshi tulikuwa tunasema sixth sense. Unasikia tumbo inanguruma, then there's something. Yes. Many people always face sometimes when the sixth sense tells them that don't do this or do this. How can people miss out on opportunities by not trusting their gut, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, well, again, that has reminded me of a joke that some elder told me. Just like you'd call me to this place.
Yes.
But then maybe I come a little late. So this elder was asked, you've come a little late, and yet we have Google Maps. So the elder said, I have nothing to do with Google Maps.
Yes.
As an old man, the air in my hand just tells me where the direction is. If it stands or if it's looking at a joke, I don't need Google Maps. So that what it was meaning was about trusting in intuition and and knowing am I really doing the right thing, and sometimes the trainings we go through, the experiences we go through, the education we go through, and many other factors. Some psychologists will tell you it's stored in some part of the brain called the subconscious mind. Yeah, Sigmund Freud, theory, so he said. And those things that are stored in the subconscious mind, there are some reality checks there as well. These reality checks that are stored there, they're not in your conscious mind, but rather in the subconscious mind. Sometimes they talk to you, and they tell you, perhaps you went through an experience and you had forgotten.
Yes.
But psychologists tell us you've not forgotten it, you've just suppressed it into the subconscious mind. So you experience it once again in life along the way, and you want to react to it differently. But it's like the brain is trying to tell you something happened to you because of making this kind of decisions you want to make right now. And because you're blinded by other factors, you're able to sometimes do the wrong things. So in law enforcement, particularly, they are trained, the militarization, the curriculum and the way the training is to really make, to improve somebody's survival skills beyond that of
You're aware.
You're aware of your environment at all time.
Yeah.
So somewhere I can say that perhaps it makes them a little bit more cautious of the environment because the training, as I've said, it forms part of someone, even if you really try to forget them, but they're always told somewhere, they remind you about certain things wherever you want to make a decision.
Yeah.
So more is in the eye calling and form of the stories of Said and how you need to trust your gut at the right time, at the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of math, and I wouldn't want us to skip on that. Just shows you how this book covers, especially law enforcement people, and as long as you're a career person, that the wholesomeness. Many people feel, they look down upon themselves. The theory of 3 is equals to 4 and all that. That was very interesting, and I don't want you to preempt about it. I want to dive straight into now. Looking at our weakness. And that is something that really motivated me in this book, that your greatest weakness is in giving up. Yani unaanza kitu, alafu naacha. There's, I think Denzel, he said that, in order for you need commitment. I mean, without commitment, you will not start. Yeah. But ultimately, without consistency, you will not finish. In your own words, I think it really, ignited that spark into a flame in me, because I totally understood the importance of being committed and consistent in what you do. Many people do not understand their ability, their internal abilities, and what the environment, as you said, doing the SWOT analysis, what they're able to do, in and within themselves. Wanafikiri tu, the help yake itatoka kwa mtu mwingine. Wacha ningoje, I have my uncle yangu atafanya nini, ndugu yangu atafanya nini. Yeah, probably you can shed a light on the role of being consistent, because law enforcement officers are out there, people who work, career people are out there, and sometimes they feel that hapa ndio mwisho, so they're settling for less. Yes. Why be ordinary when you can be extraordinary?
Yes, persistence in many spheres of life is everything. Yeah. Because just as the verge of giving up, that's when good things. You see, then they also say good things come to those who wait, but I usually say the best come to those who are persistent. And again, it has reminded me of a meme I saw somewhere. Yeah. Memes and as I was saying, watu wa kukata simu haraka, they usually miss out of a lot. Yeah. So, the most important message kwa simu inakuanga mwisho. Sasa umekata simu.
Watu wanakuanga tu hapo umeshikilia tu.
Umeshikilia tu pale tu and you forget when umepigiwa simu, so you're not saving on any credit. Yeah. So haraka na mtu amekata simu. Yeah, it shows that there are a lot of things that come towards the end, a lot of good things that come towards the end of a journey. Yeah. And I believe, the devil came to lie, to steal,
and destroy.
Yeah. I think one of his lies is that you cannot make it. And that I uses it through many other sources. Yeah, we live in a world where we have social media, mainstream media and stuff, and it uses the power of comparative analysis, compares this with that one. And then if you get into that trap, you want to compare yourself with somebody else, you don't know what journey is going to.
You've already lost.
And everybody has a different trajectory.
Exactly.
You see? Having a job at 30 doesn't mean that this other person who's been jobless for 8 years, and then you get it at the same time. It'll probably be better than you, maybe who's got there at the same time because of the experience he's gotten. Everybody else, everybody has a different trajectory, and unfortunately the laws, I don't know, I call them natural laws or what, they only come to those who persist, because there are always a lot of distraction. That is, there are a lot of things that try to disorient you from the focus. Yeah. And I'll talk of the compass, be like a compass. Yeah. Like in a turbulent sea, the compass always focuses. Yeah. it won't say that there's a storm on the west. He knows the ship should go to the west. The compass doesn't say, or doesn't just now point east just because it's a challenge on west. It focuses and it persists towards that direction.
Actually, it brings up a very critical point, saying that the only way or the best way is through these obstacles. As we finish up, because naona director anaanza kuniambia hapa maneno ya masaa, reflecting on what our daily lives are. In Crimeshield huwa tunasemanga Mungu mbele. The connection of whatever we do on a daily with spirituality. Personally, I'm a Christian as well. And how that helps in driving you to be more focused and more clearer in terms of your vision towards achieving. Maybe you can tell us through that, because mimi imenisaidia mbaya sana.
Yes, and it's something so clear in the high calling, whereby I shared a very important Catholic principle, whereby you're allowed to question God in prayer. Questioning God. Sometimes a lot of people, when you see the Twitter handles and blah, blah, when things happen, even what has been happening, some people try and question what is it? Where's God? And something like that. But then you realize that whenever you're going through so much, it's just there.
Yeah.
And, again, there's that song by the oldest millennials will understand, by TOK,
Yes.
Footprints.
Yes.
Yeah, it's footprints on the beach. And when you're going through a lot, you realize the footprints are not only two. There's another one. Yeah. Though invisible, but it's always there. And they're calling, as it is, the theme, the religious theme, cuts across the whole book. In nearly most of the chapters, and that there's a place for that divine arrangement of things, and for you to be in one step with that divine arrangement, then you have to understand how the divine is. And there's a chapter where I've really tried to, without preempting, a lot of philosophers in it, who are trying to question the existence of a living, of a supernatural being, and the kind of arguments Osiebo had with, those people, and how he was able to answer him towards the end of evidence of someone beyond the power we can see. And just a good example, we can't see air, there's oxygen in this way, but just because we can't see it doesn't mean there's no oxygen. It's a critical question. But then someone will ask, then who brought that oxygen? You see, so things vary. As you question these things, the more you come to understand that there's a supreme being, because as Saint Asylum said, you see, it's like, let me just put it in Swahili, kama unapigia mbuzi guitar, there are things you can understand. Like if you, like that saint I mentioned there, and how he tried to, to understand the Trinity. What is Trinity? What is God, Son, and the Holy Spirit, for example, is something that has mesmerized philosophers for a long time. And the more you try to study it, the more you understand the things you can understand, and that by itself shows you there's a supernatural being who understands what you don't understand.
Exactly. Unajua ukipata nafasi ya kukaa na mtu amefanya PhD, daktari, mpaka upate njia ya kumfanya pia ya feel kama kawaida. Unajua nyinyi mnakuwa kwa space yenu tu, but tutafika huko. At the Crimeshield podcast huwa tunakuanga na maswali. Nataka nijue which team do you support? Wewe support team gani Premier League ama hata local?
Premier League, lakini hapa nitanyongwa, ni Arsenal.
And
locally, I mean fan wa Gor.
Standard. And then describe yourself in 3 words.
I'm honest, courageous, and for now wacha nitumie tu hizo mbili.
Hizo mbili ni sawa.
Hizo mbili.
Sawa. What tumeona movie, tumeona Superman, Spider-Man, sijui nini. If there's any superpower you'd want, ni gani unaweza taka and why?
Yeah. There's something I always wanted.
Yes.
There's a movie I just watched the other day. I can just disappear at
Telepathy.
just disappear, just become Ewa.
Oh, najua hiyo movie.
So that's when when in trouble, people. Yeah. Like, so you've been abducted, wanaangalia buta wapati mtu.
And daktari, you've traveled a lot. Na najua kwa hizi nchi umekutana na watu. But me, I'm curious to know, ni chakula gani huko hivyo nje umeona, iko weird ama, unusual?
Frog legs.
Watu wanakula.
Nasikia ni tamu, ni crunchy kama mena.
Walai. Tuambie one thing that people don't know about you.
Yeah. I'm a fan of reggae music.
So adoba. One lie. You talk about one love.
Something you don't know about. Yeah. I love reggae music.
I wouldn't want to end this without, preempting a little bit. Close protection operatives, tunawajua, ma VIP protectors na ma bodyguards. In this book, it brings out also that, law enforcers and close protection operatives or bodyguards, ilianza kitambo hata kwa Biblia. So I think this is the best point to end this. I'm encouraging all of you. We have these books here. We'll be posting them. The high calling, law enforcement, any person who is in a career, this book will really touch you. And you'll be able to see through the stories how it can really affect your life in your decision making. Then we have this one called the social control. Hatujaguza because kwani mnataka tuambie kila kitu. Mnunue kitabu. It will really open up your mind. We'll put the link below and how to pay for it. And actually, it's something that I would advise all my friends. I'll tell all my colleagues to, rush and buy this book. Till next time, keep it Crimeshield.